Instagram and Facebook. So that's all we're doing today is Instagram and Facebook.
Perfect. And just, we had a slight, for all of those that are tuning in through Zoom, you'd have been able to hear us from the start, but on Facebook, I'm just going to say hello again. It's Laura Husband from HJ, and I'm with the digital and content specialist Keeks Reid, and we're doing a session today on the never-ending social stream and how to reach more people. Just wanted to catch you up there because we had a little bit of a delay on Facebook there.
Little delay. Cool. Morning, everybody. That's saying morning. Oh, it's so nice to have people like you can see that they're watching. So that's
definitely.
So yeah, like you said, Laura, it does feel like there is like a non-stop stream of content, and there's always new ways that you have to utilize the app to be on top of your game. And I just kind of thought it'd be a good way to kind of talk about the features that you should be using, and things that you should know and take into account, especially on Instagram and Facebook. To kind of get your content out there and to give yourself the best chance of getting, you know, a really good amount of eyes on your content, and hopefully from that a good amount of followers, and then leading into the salon.
Perfect. And just to answer Razia's question, if you missed part one, there is always a way to catch up. So that's a great question. You can watch it on YouTube, on our Facebook, and on our IGTV. And this is a standalone session that Keeks is doing today. So don't feel like you needed to see part one, but if you wanted to tune in, you still can do.
But I'd like it if you watched it. Cool. Okay, so I think the biggest thing for me is to go with the flow, which goes with the idea of this content being a stream of content. So what do I mean by that? I see a lot of users complaining about changes to platforms. People are still complaining that Instagram doesn't show content in reverse chronological order. And that happened in 2016, 5 years ago. You have to let that kind of thing go, because these apps and platforms are going to change all the time. And the changes they make to the algorithm, we don't notice most of them. They change them. There's robots working all the time to tweak things to make you have the best user experience and for them to make the most money. And the ones that we notice are the big ones, the big changes that they make. But they make them in order for us to interact better in their eyes on the app, and this will continue to happen. So I just kind of wanted to throw that one out there, because if there's a massive virus, or if there's a massive, you know, change to the user experience that makes things lag or makes things break. For instance, last week there was a problem with Instagram IGTV, and it kept cutting the audio. They'll make changes to fix that, but big changes like changes to the feed, additions to the app, they're not going to change. So you have to kind of go with that content flow and the, you know, the bends of the river, we could say. So did you have a question, Laura?
No, go for it.
The next thing that is really important, and so kind of following on from go with the flow, is embracing the new. So in order to give yourself the best shot at reaching more profiles, you need to embrace these updates, right? So instead of complaining, embrace them, especially on Instagram. Because do you remember when Instagram stories launched, Laura? I'm going to quiz you now. Do you remember when?
Which year? Oh dear, which year it was? I'm
going
to say
in comments if you remember.
Was it 2017?
Close, 2016.
Okay.
And when it launched, it was seen as like a copycat for Snapchat. There was this whole furore of like, they're trying to poach Snapchat's users, and there was like resistance of like documenting your day, because Instagram was seen as this like really aesthetically pleasing. You put your photo of the day up and that was it. And now literally look how popular stories are. Like I would say, I don't know about anybody else that's watching, but it is probably the thing that I swipe through first before I go down the main content. Is that the same for you, Laura?
That is the same for me as well. And it'd be good to let us know if that's the same for you, how you use Instagram.
Yeah. So on average, 500 million accounts post their stories every day. And that's way over double the amount that Snapchat have like on their app every day. And every single social media platform, including LinkedIn, now has stories. So embracing these changes will do you well, because it's very likely that they will continue to grow. Love a bit of stories.
Oh, brilliant.
Good to know. So big big changes that we've seen on Instagram very recently are the additions of shop, reels, and guides. And this Instagram specifically pushes accounts that use these updates quickly, these early adopters, because and that's one thing that won't change in regards to the algorithm. If you adopt these new features, they'll push your content because it shows it being used. Of course, you want to show off that people are loving what you're doing and loving the app and loving engaging. So I've put a few ideas down for how you could use these features. So for shop, so obviously now at the moment we're not in salons still, but I don't know if maybe you can let me know in the comments if you guys retail in salon, if you sell through your salon online at all, or if you're thinking about doing that, because if you do, shop is a really good way to utilize this. So yes, so Maria, you retail online. So if you have an online store, you can really easily set up a shop on your Instagram story. I can't go into like the specific details now because like a last session, it would take up the whole session. But if you go onto Instagram business and go onto shop, it has a few step-by-steps and it will tell you all about how to utilize shop for Instagram marketing and business. And you can also do this on Facebook. Facebook shop is very huge. It's like another section of marketplace. It's just people love to sell online now, right? So why not utilize that and link it onto your online business? With reels, this is like the latest, well, it's actually not, guides is the latest one, but reels is a really key aspect of Instagram now that's not going, doesn't seem to be going anywhere, because just like they did with Snapchat and they took stories and implemented it into their app, they took TikTok and implemented it into their app. So how can you utilize reels for your salon business? You could, do you have tips that you could share with your clients while they're at home doing their own hair or trying to do their own nails, or, you know, trying to keep up with what you would be offering them? How can they sustain that while they can't be with you? Can you share that with your clients and your prospective clients? These are 15 to 30-second videos, but they don't actually need to be videos. You can create a video with just an image and overlay text over it with some music. You can get creative. You don't have to go outside and skateboard. Like, do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be the youthful way of using it. You can align these videos with your own content and make sure that it's important that it does align, because if it doesn't, it won't sit well with your already engaged following.
Can I do a little shout out there, Keeks?
Mm-hmm.
Gareth Williams, Gazzy London are his reels. Everyone, check out Gazzy London if you want to have a look at a hairdresser who's doing some really cool reels on Instagram.
So good. I love the music he picks as well, and the little pointing.
Little pointing,
so
yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. I'm sure like it does take time to write the text on and stuff, but that's 15 seconds. And if this is, as we suspect it is, a good way of engaging with the algorithm to make sure it's being pushed, the content's being pushed, that's what, like maybe 20 minutes of your time. Is that worth it to you? Remember last week, obviously not everyone saw it, but I was saying, you know, your time is valuable or money is valuable. You've got to kind of know which one to pick. So yeah, it's quite time and cost effective to do reels as well. So it shouldn't take you too long. If it does take you quite long, then maybe it's not for you.
What should be the priority, Keeks? If you wanted to prioritise between, say, stories and reels at the moment, what would you prioritise?
That's a good question. I think I would prioritise reels because you have, while you're not in salon, especially at the moment, you probably have a bit more time to be a bit more creative to create that content. Whereas with stories, what are you updating people on? So if you think of stories as your little like vlog of in the day, it's probably going to be maybe a little bit more boring because we're not really doing much. I'm like, oh, there's some snow. Whereas if you try to be a bit more creative with reels, then you can always put that reel on your story.
That's a great way of explaining it. And we did actually have a question from Maria. She was asking if you could explain the difference between what is a reel versus what is a story.
Of course. So a story is something that you upload. So you can create a video and then put it onto your story. But essentially, the biggest difference is where they sit on the platform, and the fact that your story will disappear after 24 hours, whereas your reel will always live in your feed if you choose to put it on your feed, which is your profile or your grid, as I normally say. You can save your stories to highlights, but highlights aren't really engaged with as much on Instagram because you have to go on to that person's profile to look through them. And you see them in reverse chronological order. So if someone put up a hair story, and they then put it in their hair highlight, but they had hair highlights from 75 weeks ago and they have 200, you've got to click through all of them to get there. So a reel is probably, I would say, a more user-friendly way of storing short form video, because there's a section on your profile that you can swipe through, like another version of your own grid, to look through all your reels. So that's, I'd say, the main difference is where they live, and the reels seem to be suited in a better place for like long-term content.
Brilliant. Do you have any suggestion, Keeks, for where people could go if they want to learn more about how to create reels? Are there any kind of websites or anything that you would go to for someone who wants to kind of learn how to do it?
I would say, do you know what? No, I'd say go on to things like Social Sprout and TechCrunch to learn about updates. That's a really, that's where I get my information in regards to Instagram, Facebook, or the other social apps. However, the best way to learn about creating reels is to watch people create them, and to go on to other people's profiles and have a look at what's done well for them. With Instagram, on reels especially, they have the amount of views and plays that each reel has had on, that's overlaid on top of the reel itself on someone's profile. So if you go onto someone's profile and they've created 20 reels and one of them's had 1,000 views and one's had 20,000 views, have a look at the one that's had 20,000 views and see what they're doing that you could maybe incorporate, not to copy, but to take inspiration from, and maybe look at the one that's not done so well and have a think about why maybe that one didn't do as well. But the best way to learn on these apps is to watch how other people use them. So I've just seen there's another question. I got distracted.
Have you seen the one which is, can you add old highlights and make them into a reel?
Yeah, so you should still be able to save your old your old stories on Instagram. So I did that the other day. Literally, I went on to my Instagram profile. I went into the archive. So the archive is, if you go into your menu, it will say archive, and you can go through all of your Instagram stories that you've ever uploaded is saved there. And you go into that and you can save videos from there. So I did a hair journey because I was like, oh, my hair's grown a lot over the past 2 years. So I just went on and looked at all the times that I kind of referenced my hair and put it into a 15-second video, and I actually uploaded that onto TikTok. But yeah, you can add old stories to your highlights. You can create highlights from whatever stories you've ever put up.
Fantastic. We had a question as well asking for the guy's name, who to follow on Instagram. So that was Gazzy London, Gazzy London, and it's Gareth Williams. We've got a PB World event coming up actually at the end of February, early March, and we've got a social media panel, and he's going to be on that, so he'll be able to talk you all through his reels. So do tune in for that. Well. Yeah, exactly. That it should be quite a fun one. So have a look on our HJ's website to find out more about the PB World event and register for that.
Cool. So I don't know if we have any more questions about reels, but if not, I'll move on to guides. And obviously, if you have any that crop up, definitely just let me know and I can answer them.
I'm just going to throw in one then, Keeks, to do with reels. So we have had another question for reels. Mm-hmm. It was from Julie. She's saying she's never heard of reels before. So I think reels seems to be a topic of conversation where people need to explore that in a bit more detail. Maybe even at a future date, we might be able to rope Keeks into doing a whole session around reels if it's something that you do want to talk about in more detail.
Maybe. So reels are like I said before, the Instagram version of TikTok, they are short form video. You can't have it be more than 30 seconds at this time. I'm sure where TikTok has lengthened theirs to 60 seconds, we might see that happen with Instagram Reels as well. So it would be between 15 seconds and 60 seconds, but that hasn't happened yet. It is, so you can either create the videos before you go onto Instagram and then cut them together on the app, or you can just film shoot straight on your camera on Reels. Once you've done that, you can cut it, you can add audio. I think that some profiles still haven't got access to audio, and that's just, they haven't rolled it out to all accounts yet. But if that's the case, you can always add audio before you put it on to the app.
You can create a video on your phone and then add it as a reel afterwards.
Exactly. So if you found that you've gone on to Reels and you can't have access to the media library, which is created by Spotify, then I would always suggest using an app like I use InShot to create short form vertical video, and they have audio library on there, and you can just use audio from there and then add it on to that. You can also add voiceover too.
Was that spelled INSHOT?
Yeah.
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 So it's basically, just to summarize it in case for people who have never seen a reel before, it is a short form video that has some fun music to it and people doing actions often in time with the music, but you don't have to.
Don't have to. Some people do like vlogs, like 30-second vlogs, and they speak really, really quickly, and they do like 2-second videos of throughout the day. You could do a 15-second sped up tutorial on something. It doesn't actually even have to be like showing how to do something. It can just be showing, I did this nail design on myself. It's just short form, pleasing video content.
So during lockdown, anyone tuning in could have a go at what they would normally do on their stories, having a go at doing it as reels instead.
Yeah. One thing I would say is I would avoid doing any, so with stories, we do a lot of talking to camera, or like maybe just rehashing something or giving your opinion on something. I would say that doesn't sit well within Reels. Reels is definitely more for like eye-catching content. So it's more aesthetically, things have to be more aesthetically pleasing, or like not so much shocking, but do you know what I mean? Just less wordy than stories. So if you want to do like a more wordy video, I would consider doing an IGTV, or have it live on stories.
So Reels is a bit more visual.
Yeah.
So something that's going to catch the eye.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about guides. I don't know if every account has guides yet, because they tend to roll things out quite slowly. So I know that most accounts that I've come into contact with have guides now. I see guides as, it's kind of like a scrapbook of content on Instagram. It's very much, you can put them together through anything that you've saved. So it doesn't even have to be your own content. So, or the way that I've seen it be used is that you can create like skincare guides, and you save products from shops that have shops on Instagram, I should say. So, big retailers, and you can save these products and then videos that maybe you've created to create like the perfect skincare guide or maintaining balayage. So it's more scrapbooky because it doesn't have to be your own content, as long as it's content you've saved, which is the little flag at the bottom right of each picture or video on Instagram. Save it, and then you can add it to a guide. The only thing with guides is that guides at the moment haven't been, there's no way to incorporate a guide into the feed at the moment. So unless people are literally looking on your profile, on your guide, or you've added your guide to a story, there's no way of them just stumbling across it. So I wouldn't spend too much time on it if you're looking for like reach, because the people that it's going to reach is the people that already engage with your content.
Perfect. So a guide in a way is a way of showing you as a hairdresser as being the expert to your audience.
Exactly. So it's a great way of like helping clients that you maybe already have, show that, you know, this is a great way of the best way to deep condition. And you can put all your videos that you've ever done on Instagram on deep conditioning into that guide, along with product recommendations that you have that are available in Instagram into that guide, which is really why it's a good idea to have a shop, because you can then just link to your shop in that guide, and then all the information and links for them to spend money with you are within that guide.
Perfect. So it's also a good way to organise your content to make it easier for people to navigate through it.
Exactly.
And to then ultimately shop once they've read everything you've had to say about it and absolutely love it.
Exactly. I've just seen a question down there about guides. Where do we find guides? Guides should be, so this is what I mean, I don't know if it's on everyone's profile yet, but if you go onto the Instagram app, it should be, and go onto your profile. So you'll see your feed, you'll see the reels, you'll see IGTV as like a little tabs between the highlights and the start of your picture. You should see a little book that says guides. So if you don't, you might not have access to it yet, but also check on your profile where you've got the plus sign. If you can see, it will say post, IGTV, reel, and it should say guide. If it doesn't, you don't have access to it yet.
Perfect. Victoria said thank you for that. Good old thumbs up.
So I'm moving on to the next section now, and that is kind of going against this whole thing that I'm doing, but likes aren't the most important thing, and especially reach is not. So likes and reach are vanity metrics, and that's because they make your content sound good. Like, oh my god, I've reached 100,000 people and I've gotten 200,000 likes. As a digital editor, I loved that. I loved going to you, Laura, and being like, oh, we've got a reach of 1 million people, whatever. It feels good, right?
Definitely.
So it does feel good, and a lot of the times it can correlate with how well you're doing. So that it's not to say that these things don't matter at all. It's just that they're not the most important thing to take into account when you're looking at trying to engage with more people or to have more of a loyal following. They don't really show you anything about what is being absorbed by your followers or what your followers are engaging with, and that's really detrimental. Because if people aren't engaging, then your content is less likely to be shown to more people via the explore page, etc. So if people are just liking and then swiping away and not commenting or lingering and reading and stuff, that's a problem, and you can't tell that by reach. The best way to kind of understand if people are engaging with your content is via comments and actually via saves. So are people saving your content to come back to later? That gives Instagram a really good indication of whether people like your content or want to re-engage with it. It's how the algorithm decides if it's content that they kind of want to parade and show other people, because other people will like it, right? So, and this is ultimately because Instagram all they want to do is keep users on the app for as long as possible. So if they think that your content is going to keep people on the app because they're saving it or they're staying to comment and engage with it, then they're going to like that kind of content, right? So how do you make your content more savable? The best way you can do this is to pack it with as much information as possible. Now you can do this with carousel posts, so people are swiping through. It also means that if they haven't engaged once, they might engage again with the next one when they're shown in the feed. So if they haven't liked it or commented, they'll show the next picture in the carousel. So if you can put a few pictures up instead of just the one, but that's not going to limit then the amount that you can put up throughout the week, because I really, really, really hate seeing that when people put 10 pictures in one. but then they don't have anything else to post, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. Can you put 3 pictures in one, 3 pictures in the next, 3 pictures in the next, kind of thing? And that's another way you can pack it with info, because you can put infographics on there. You can, create graphics to engage people, and long captions help as well, because that improves linger time, because people try to stay and read it. So as annoying as they are, you do normally, if someone's got a lot to say, you're like, oh, what they got to say, I want to read it, I want to know what they've got to say. So those are 2 ways that you can help make your posts more savable and make them more engaging, with captions and with packing it with information.
If you need to get Keeks, you were talking about comments and the strength of comments. Could you phrase the caption to be a question or something that's going to encourage people to want to comment, as opposed to just saying, here's my beautiful image?
Exactly. That's a really good way of doing it. Creating, or like bullet points, giving people options, or like, what one would you choose? Encouraging conversation is essentially what you want to do as much as possible. If the worst thing to do is to force it. So if you are really stuck, just close the app and come back to it another time. But if you have a question or you have a lot of information you want to share, this is a really good way of making it engaging and savable.
Maria has said, are likes on pictures no good then in terms of reach?
No, likes and pictures are lovely, because it shows that your content is being liked. It just doesn't it doesn't necessarily mean that it's engaging people, because people can very easily just tap like and then swipe really quickly, and they're not lingering to actually look at the picture. And I know, if we're all being honest, we all do that. We all just go double tap, go, double tap, go. How often do you actually sit there and write a comment out that's longer than an emoji, or actually look at a picture, unless it's a carousel, which will make you linger? How often do you actually do that? But every time you do that, you're doing the other person a really big favor.
How do you feel, Keeks, about on your grid post using an app to put some words onto the grid post to encourage them to then read the caption?
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And I don't think it's a bad idea to say, save this post for later somewhere, because if you don't ask, you don't get. So as long as it's not jarring, and like I've said before, like, think of yourself as the consumer and the user. Like, how much would you like it if it was blasted with text everywhere and it just looks very like needy? Try to make it so that if you can put graphics on it and encourage people to read it or save it, then great. But if it's going to be a bit like spammy, then I would leave it.
We've had a question, how do you save a post for later?
So if you open your Instagram app now, you'll see your feed, which is the vertical content. And on the left-hand side, you'll see like the heart for like button, you'll see the comment button, and you'll see the little paper airplane that goes whoosh to send it to someone. And then on the right-hand side, there's a little flag, and that's your save button. And that's how you save a post for later.
So that, in other words, means someone wants to keep that post to have for their own inspiration at a later date. So that's a real plus point from your perspective.
Exactly, because you can save it to boards. So that's when they try to be like Pinterest. You see how Instagram's really clever. They go, oh, that's great, I'm going to take that. So you can save it to your own board, or like we've discussed before, we can save it to guides now.
Yeah, and hopefully that answered your second question, Emma, which was, where does it go once you've saved it?
So there's a section, if you go now onto your profile, you can go to your saved posts, and that will show you everything, including boards or just ones that you've just randomly saved.
Another great question from Victoria, is it okay to share a saved post from somebody else? Is there a specific etiquette for that?
Absolutely, because it's not, as long as you're not screenshotting it and taking off their like handle and showing where it's come from, but you're actually sharing it with the little paper airplane onto your story, or reposting it via a repost app, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that, as long as you're crediting them or doing it through the proper ways.
It's a compliment, isn't it, to the person that
exactly. But that's they're going to start, this is what I mean with Instagram, is that they're continually changing, and there's talks that they're going to take away the posting, sharing to a story. So now you can share, like if you put something up on Hairdresser's Journal when there's like a new issue launch, and you can easily just share that to the story, and it's just like perfect, that's done. They're taking that away because apparently people don't like when that interferes with the regular stories, like specifically story content. Apparently users don't like that. So then you've spent all this time getting used to something and they take it away. So you have to kind of just go with the flow.
Definitely. And actually, Keeks, we had a question. Somebody wanted to know again the sites to go to find out more about the social algorithms. It was Social Sprout.
Social Sprout. So these are the two that I use, by the way. So this isn't by no means like
the definitive. Yes.
Right. But TechCrunch and Social Sprout. And also going onto the actual websites of these platforms, they put updates on there as well. Yeah,
so it's definitely worth checking those out. And obviously you work in this field 24/7, Keeks, but how often should somebody tuning in to this session today be visiting those websites to find out updates? Or is there a newsletter that you can subscribe to on those sites?
I'm sure there is. I'm absolutely sure there is. In fact, maybe that's the best way to do it, Laura. That's a really good idea, because I go onto like all my websites that I love to just get like gossip off of. I go onto these sites just like every day, not every day, but just without thinking. So I don't think there's like, as someone this isn't their full-time job, I wouldn't say that you necessarily have to do that, but maybe signing up to a newsletter, that's a great way of making sure you're ahead of the curve.
Definitely. Do you want me to go? Have you got to the end of everything you wanted to share, or do you want me to start going through questions? Points. Oh, perfect. You keep going, and then we'll kind of go back through any questions that we might have missed earlier on at the end.
Cool. I love that people are so engaged. It just makes me so happy.
They're loving it, honestly.
Oh, good. So my next tip is don't post and ghost. And if you've been to like a PB talk of mine or heard me talk ever, I always say this. It's such a pet peeve of mine, because it's so easy now, because we're so busy and we've got all these scheduling apps at our disposal. We'll like schedule content for like 20 days. If you have, that's amazing. But like say for like a week, and you don't then go onto the app and actually engage with your content. And there used to be an idea that if you post something within the first 20 minutes, you need to engage with anyone that's commenting, and that boosts your content in the algorithm. This hasn't been proven. I still think it's giving yourself a best shot, because what the likelihood of people seeing your content that engage with it within the first 20 minutes is very high. So did that make sense? So I know that I'm saying a lot of words like engagement and algorithm, and it's...
So to summarise, as soon as you put a post up, whether you've scheduled it or not, as soon as that's been live, there's like a sweet spot after the first 20 minutes, supposedly, when it's a good time to reply to comments that you receive.
Yes, and this is unproven, but it makes sense, because as much as there's no reverse chronological order anymore, you'll probably notice that your best friends or the people you engage most with, as soon as they've put a post up, you see it. Like whether it's been like whenever it's gone up, you'll see it first. Make sense? Whereas with other people, it might say like posted 1 day ago, and you're like, wow, how did I miss that? So the people that engage with your content most will see it first and probably engage quickly. And if you can, make sure that you are commenting back more than just emojis. This is very key. It's so easy to put a love heart. That doesn't mean anything. That is not a meaningful comment that shows engagement. If you sorry.
So is a love heart the equivalent of hitting like, basically?
Yeah. If you can do more than 3 words, this sounds so stupid, but if you can do more than 3 words, that'd be really good. It just shows real engagement. It's acknowledged as real engagement. And that kind of moves me on into my next point, which is that these apps are all about engagement and community. Now, if you think about it from a cynical point of view, Facebook and Instagram want money-making machines. They want you to stay on their apps for as long as possible. This is why they continue to take from other apps to make sure that you just stay, you do all your shopping there, you read all your news there, you talk to all your family there, you can video call on it now, you can do literally almost everything apart from bathe and like eat on there. So they want
in time, give it time.
I know, soon.
You can never have your hair cut through an app though. That is the
Well, the algorithm's so strong. But like you can watch telly on there now, like you can literally watch series, like on Instagram TV you can create series on there. They want you to stay on there because they want to make money through their advertisers to show that people stay on these apps for this amount of time, so you need to pay us money so that they can see your advertisements, right? So cynically it's like that, but also the reason these were created is because it's social. It's a way to socialize and to form a community. And I think because of the fact that, you know, everyone's on there, everybody wants likes, everyone wants to reach more people and have more followers, I think that sense of community gets lost. And I think that it's really important for us to remember that this is meant to be a social media app. And to when you're socializing with people, like I really try not to just talk at people. So do you ever in a good conversation just talk at someone and then walk away?
No.
No. So why would you do that on these apps, which is what you're doing if you're just posting your content and then not, you know, engaging with other people's content, following new people, going on the explore page. Like think of the explore page as like a Christmas market. It's like a marketplace where you can see lots of different sites and engage with different people you'll never really see again or would have seen if you didn't go there. It's just, I think, yeah, it's really important that you actually engage with people, and if they see you engage with people because you're staying on the site longer, your profile will do better for it.
I was just going to say, in terms of direct messaging, does that contribute to engagement if you prefer to message somebody privately as opposed to publicly as a comment on a post?
I was literally just, you
know
what, I'm still there on my long run. I'm still at HJ. I was literally about to say, DMs are still key in this conversation. So if you don't want to message someone on comments, DMs are so key. My favorite story is that Kim Kardashian DMs hairdressers and makeup artists that she likes in whatever country she goes to, supposedly, like allegedly, I should say.
We should ask someone who's done her hair.
I actually have. I've been told this by a makeup artist and a hairdresser, but I still feel like I don't want to get like put on TMZ.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she DMs people and says, I love your work. I would love for you to do my hair or makeup when I'm in X country. And she's one of the most famous women in the world. So DMing is not above anybody. Reaching out to people is not above anybody. And it's a good way to build community. And with Facebook as well, I know we've kind of not really spoken a lot about Facebook, but it's the same. Like it's an app that wants to bring back that aspect of community. And that's why they pushed groups on us so hard in 2019. Like to the point where I was like, I've got to do like a PowerPoint presentation on how we can use groups because it seems like that's the only thing that's going to matter. And while it did take a little bit of a backseat while groups were being pushed, lives are also a good way on Facebook to engage with the community. We see it well with like How to Cut It. They have the hair show, I think it's called. Like that's a way of people tuning in every single Monday at 8, I think. I'm not doing the PR for them. I think it's a great idea because it's created a community, right, of people that know to go to that page at a specific time to watch this live. So they're utilizing groups and they're utilizing community and lives, which you can do with your salon too. Like there's no reason your clients or your like fellow hairdressers want to hear from you. They want to speak to you because this is a community, and the beauty industry too, I should say, because I know we're streaming across the board.
And half of you that are watching right now are watching on HJ's Facebook page or Professional Beauty's Facebook page or Modern Barber's Facebook page. So you are tuning in through Facebook, through a live, and communicating with your fellow audience, you know, fellow people within the industry.
Exactly. So my last point, and then we can get on to any more questions you might have, is hashtags. And this is a hard one for me because I hate hashtags. I think that it honestly makes my skin crawl when I see them being used incorrectly. And I think that sometimes there's a fine balance of being savvy and looking needy, but they do really work, and they have started to work better on Facebook now, to search as well. So my tip with hashtags would be that to only utilize it for things that you want to be searched for. The amount of times that I'll see like hashtag love, hashtag posh, like are you asking for people to search your salon for those words? I don't think so. Or hashtag been there, done that. But I think it's because we speak in hashtags so often, it's really easy to forget they're actually a search tool, but you wouldn't type that in Google for your salon, would you? So think about what you would want to be searched for in Google and then utilize hashtags in that way.
So if you're in beauty, then you'd be thinking about hashtags that are relevant to the services that you'd be putting together.
Yes.
Or in hair and barbering, make sure it's relevant to your industry if you want to push your profile with potential clients.
I would say make it relevant to your industry, to your specific salon, and then your specific image or video that you've uploaded.
Do location hashtags do well, Keeks?
Location, I would not so much add them if you're just doing like London, hashtag London, but hashtag London hairdresser, absolutely. And make sure that if you can, you've geolocated your salon on Facebook and on Instagram, because then you can just make sure that your salon is tagged in the location above the picture too.
And another question on so is it better to put your hashtags as your first comment or in within the caption?
So this is something that I've put, that I'd say up to 20 hashtags is fine. And make sure, like I said, relative keywords. You can even hide them in your captions, or you can add them as a comment. It doesn't actually make any difference. I would just say if you're adding them to your caption, try to create a distance between the actual caption and the hashtags. If you're going to use more than like a couple, if you're going to use so many that it looks a little bit needy, so like 20, try to hide them so that people can't see them when they're looking at your caption. And to do that, you can do 5 full stops, 1 per line. So you write your caption, return,
yeah.
Return, and then do a full stop, and then return, and then do that 5 times, and that will bury your hashtags.
And then you can do as many as you want without
looking like you're spamming.
Yes, definitely. But I guess, is it worth, Keeks, for people before they start hashtagging to actually search the hashtags they're going to use to see whether they have got any traction?
1000%. Can I give you a really awkward instance when this happened? This was the early days of Instagram, because I was in my old job, and I was with my best work friend, and we took a picture outside, and I'm black and she's white, and I did hashtag ebony and ivory, and I clicked on it and it was all interracial porn, and I didn't know.
And there's your cute little picture popping up in the middle of it all.
Us like outside work, so definitely check the hashtags before.
Great tip there.
And that's kind of the end of my presentation, but I would love to, any questions you have, fire them through.
Well, we've already got lots, so we're going to try, and we've gone overtime as always with these sessions. I know you will love them, so I think we'll just try and whiz through as many questions as we can get through. Just starting with one relevant to hashtags. Could you repeat how you hired hashtags?
Yes, so in the caption, once you've written your caption, you do 5 full stops. So you write your caption, you press return, and on each line for 5 lines, put 1 full stop. And then add your caption, your hashtags, and that will hide them.
Perfect. Lovely compliment from Julie. Yes, Keeks is extremely knowledgeable on all things social media related.
I'm going to my mum, thank you.
Maz has asked, and this is a great question, it might tie us into any questions that have come through on Facebook, so I'll try and group these together. Do you think Facebook is still a good social media platform?
Yes, I do. I do think it's still good. I think that it has been kind of swiped with a brush of, oh, it's for older people. But it's still one of the first things that will come up if you have a Facebook page for your salon. It's one of the first things that comes up in Google. So if you have one, I would try to keep it relevant and keep it updated. But if it's not your main place anymore, like if you have a Facebook page, but you actually prefer Instagram, that's fine as well. But just make sure that your information is up to date, because that's not, unless you delete the page, that's not going to go away.
Perfect. And then Jo has asked, well, she's saying she's struggling to get her Instagram and Facebook linked together. But I guess that's another great tip as well, isn't it? Linking those two profiles together.
Yes, and making sure that your Instagram page is a business instead of a personal account, which I hope everybody's is. That's why I didn't put it into this, because I thought hopefully everyone's is. But linking it should be quite simple if both pages are business accounts and they're both either created by the same person or linked to the same email address. You should be able to link them together. If not, and you're not an admin of your Facebook page, you just need to become an admin of that, and then you should be able to then link them together. My last resort would be to use a scheduling app, ones like Buffer or Plannerly. I recently had to do this with a client of mine whose social media I look after, because I didn't own their Facebook page. So they had to make me an admin of their Facebook page, and then Plannerly linked them together within the app for me, which I was like, thank you so much for doing that, because that was absolute too fake.
Perfect. And that then ties us into, we've had a whole host of questions about scheduling, how many posts to post in a single day. And maybe we can kind of group those together. If there's any scheduling platforms that you'd recommend, and maybe just a brief outline as to what they are. We had a few people asking what a scheduling platform is, and so how often.
Okay, so scheduling platform is something that will take the work out of making sure that you put something up every day out of your hands, because you could go on a Monday or Sunday or whatever and add all your content into this platform, schedule it out on specific times and days, and then it will, for the most part, as long as your Facebook and Instagram accounts are linked, it will auto post for you. So you don't have to worry at Monday at 6 to, oh, I've got to make sure I put that up, because it takes it out of your hands. My favorite one, if you're looking to do it on a bigger scale, is Buffer. They've got a really good premium plan that allows you to add a multitude of different apps, not just Instagram or Facebook. You can do LinkedIn, you can do Pinterest, you can do lots of different accounts on there, and you can schedule, like, I think at the pro level it's like 10,000 posts, which is just crazy. You'd never need that many scheduled in advance if you're just a normal salon. But it also, you can do hashtag manager, so it manages hashtags for you, so you don't have to type them out each time. If you're on a more smaller scale and you're maybe thinking of doing like one post a day every month, I would really suggest Plannerly, because they've got the best, in my opinion, free plan for Instagram. So this is specifically for Instagram, not any other apps. But yeah, it's completely free. You can schedule 30 posts a month for free, and it auto posts to your Instagram account. You can also group hashtags with that as well. And you can play around with what it looks like in the feed. So it shows you what your grid will look like. And if you think maybe these two posts shouldn't go together, you can move them around. So those are my two favorite ones. What else did you ask, Laura? Sorry.
I think you've pretty much tapped it all off there. Yeah. So how many posts to do per day would you recommend?
So I would say there's no sweet spot. In all honesty, I'd be lying if I said you should do 3 posts a day and that maximizes it. No, you should post as much as you can sustainably post every day, but I would say minimum once a day for professional business like accounts. If you're just doing a personal account, it's just about you and your quarantine diaries, you don't have to post every day. But I think for a business to sustain, it should be at least once a day. If you can do more, great, you're giving yourself more opportunity to be seen and to be engaged with, but I would say minimum once.
Perfect. And you don't have to pay for a business page on Facebook or Instagram, do you?
No, not at all. The only thing you have to pay for within these apps is if you want to do ads, if you want to run ads with them.
Perfect. And Plannerly, is that spelled as in planner?
So it's Planoly.
Okay, I'll see if I can put that into the Zoom chat. Planolly. That's for scheduling on Instagram only.
Yes. And I know we're going to always go over time, but Planoly also have a really good blog that gives you really good suggestions on how to utilize Instagram as a business. It's somewhere that I go to as well. It's not as techy as TechCrunch and Sprout Social, but it's more like how to make your reels look nice. Like it's those kind of like more flowery posts.
Sounds great. And we had a great question, which I definitely need to try and get in before the end. Okay. It's from Razia, and she's noticed that some people manage to go from having 10 followers to 100 followers in a day, and she's not sure how they're doing it, and it's taken her ages of daily interaction. Is there a secret way to gain a larger following?
Oh, I'd be absolutely rich if I knew that, Razia. A lot of people buy followers, and that's still a practice that happens. It's something that Instagram tries to be on top of, and they do a thing called like a purge every now and again, where they purge accounts that don't seem real. So, sometimes you might be contacted like, we love your account, we want to manage your social media, and they have like 0 posts and 1 follower. Those are spam accounts, and they do purge those every now and again. But it's a fact, people buy followers because following, reach, and likes are a vanity metric, and you're like, oh my god, that account has 10,000 followers, they must be a pretty decent account, and that's not always the case. So there's no secret to gaining followers quickly. I think if there was, I'd love to know, but it's more about being consistent and putting up content that people like. I think that it's really important that people don't really seem to utilize this, is to look at your insights, and any business account has access to these insights on each photo. So every time I upload a photo for my personal account and for the account that I run for a salon, I look at the insights. I look at how many people commented. Did my following go up after we did that? How many people, you can look at these insights and allow that to tailor make what you put up next, rather than just blindly putting up posts and hoping they do well.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Keeks. We had a great tip from somebody. Laura says that she used Simply Create on YouTube to learn how to make reels. It was really useful and easy to follow. So that's a great tip there from Laura. Yeah. And we've also had a question from someone who said they upload the same post to Instagram and Facebook via Facebook for Business scheduling. Mm-hmm. Is that okay, or should the post be different for each platform?
I think it's okay if you're stretched for time. I think that we're in a world now where we have to do a million things at the same time. So if you can spread that content across platforms, then do it. However, you probably would be better off tailoring content for your audience. So maybe your audience on Instagram is a little bit younger, and your Facebook audience is a little bit older. Do you have a different way of speaking to your clients that are in different age demographics? Do you know that they like different things? If you can do that, then you might be a bit better off in regards to engagement. But if you can't, it's not like the end of the world. So for instance, all these platforms now have stories. Why would you not put your story from Instagram onto your Facebook story and your LinkedIn story and your Twitter fleets, or whatever it's called? I think it's called fleets. Yeah. Why not do that? Because that's saving you a job of having to then do different stories for each one.
Makes complete sense. And those scheduling platforms, if you did want to have a go with those, they can really help with that, can't they? And making it a much more streamlined process. George has said he knows that social platforms are really great for young creatives getting their work noticed. But he's asking, what about the older generations that maybe don't rely on or are not as experienced in technology?
Are we thinking of the older generation being the ones that post, or the ones that post, right?
I'm guessing, yeah. He's obviously saying, what about the people who aren't as good at doing this kind of social stuff?
Yeah, so I think play to what you're good at. So I know that, maybe like you said, like the younger generation might be a little bit more creative in that sense. I actually don't think it's more creative. I just think that their mind is tuned to be on their phones, so they adapt to these things quicker. But what are you good at? Do you like having discussions with your clients? Do you like to, what's your favorite part of your clientele, and kind of tune it in that sense? So maybe you want to do every, Tuesday, you have a chat, a meeting online with them, and they know to come back at that point for that, rather than trying to do a dancey reel like Gazzy, do you know what I mean? Like, whatever you feel comfortable with, that will show through as well. I think that's, super important, that you don't try to push yourself too much out of your comfort zone, because it will read as uncomfortable. I've just saw my postman go really scared.
Oh, bless you. And we've had a couple of people, I can answer this one very quickly, asking what DM is, but that's basically a private message in Instagram between you and the person asking the question. So a DM is a direct message, private message between you and one other person.
Exactly.
And we're getting very close to the end now, Keeks, so I'm going to try and wrap it up. I hope I've got through as many questions for you all as possible. But can you recommend a free app to create post images? Sharon has said hers look great, but her posts come out really grey and pixely.
So I'd say Canva is a great one to create images, like create graphics, but just make sure that if you can, check on your laptop, or I think you can check on your phone in some way, but check that your dimensions are okay. So make sure that your dimensions are at least 1080 wide for Instagram, because that means that it won't be pixelated. So if it's like 400 wide, it's going to stretch the image and it's going to make it grainy. It's not as important to do like a square anymore. Like, you can do vertical images and landscape, but just make sure that the minimum is 1080 wide when you post.
Perfect. Well, I think we're getting to the end of our session now, Keeks, and everyone that's messaging is saying what an informative session it's been and how engaging you are, and thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. So everyone's been absolutely loving it, Keeks, so thank you.
Thank you so much. I would love to come back another time.
Well, I will hold you to that.
Yeah,
so now you've said that. I will make sure she agrees to that, so that's brilliant. And that's fantastic. If you missed the first session, you can tune into it on our HJs and all of our different platforms, IGTV, YouTube and Facebook. So whether you're watching it on Professional Beauty, Modern Barber, PBHJ Ireland, or of course HJ, you can watch it back on all of our different channels, and this session as well, you can find that on all of our social channels as well. So if you missed anything, or if we didn't answer your question to the very end, then you can watch it all back and take all of those notes down as well. But it's safe to say we've covered a hell of a lot of ground in this session, Keeks, so thank you.
I'm seeing all the lovely comments as well. It's very heartwarming. Thank you. I've really enjoyed talking to you guys, and yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Keeks Reid to ask any other questions, and if you want to work with me on your strategy, we can always talk about that too.
Perfect. And I guess one of the big tips to take from this is, while you are in lockdown and unable to be in your salon or working at your business, you could experiment with your social media and trying to get that engagement up.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Keeks, for another fantastic session, and I hope we'll get to see you very soon. Wink, wink.
Thank you so much. Peace. See you soon, guys. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye.